Hello everyone, I am V. Srinivasarao, also known as VSR. I am the Chairman and Managing Director for BT&BT, a digital business consulting firm. I also chair Open Digital Innovation Working Group under IIT Future Tech Panel. So today we are going to have a very interesting discussion on building the Metaverse. I think everybody is talking about that. But the most important thing is, how do future businesses look like with this Metaverse? So I have esteemed panel from very renowned organizations. So let me introduce Kapil Dhiman, Web 3.0 business leader, PwC India deals he manages basically. Hi Kapil, thanks for joining.
It's a pleasure, VSR. Thank you for having me.
Piyush Srivastav, head IT North Muthoot Group. Thanks Piyush.
Yeah, thanks for calling. Thank you, Prasad.
Balaji MS Viswanathan, Cloud Data Technology Leader, Global Data Ingestion and Analytics. Ford. So thanks, Balaji, for joining this interesting session.
Hi, Visa. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Jay Daga, Vice President, Technology, Media and Entertainment, India. So thanks, Jay, for joining this session.
Thanks, Visa. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
Durga Prasad Swaminathan, Executive Vice President and CIO, Cholamandalam Investment and Finance Company Limited. Thanks, Durga Prasad.
Yeah, thank you so much. Great to be on this panel.
I think I'm very delighted to have you all from different backgrounds. I think today we are going to have a very interesting discussion. I'm sure everybody's talking about Metaverse. For at least last 3 years, we have been hearing it. And after Facebook changed its name to Meta, the whole, I think, thing got changed, right? So there are so many versions of Metaverse coming. Metaverse is known in the entertainment industry and mostly in the gaming industry. Then I would like to start with you, Durga Prasad. So what do you think, how the industry metaverse or a business metaverse is different from this gaming, entertainment related metaverse? I mean, why the business is behind metaverse? I think that's where everyone is very curious to know. Can you please share your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah. No, I think first we have to set in terms of the context on what exactly do we mean by metaverse, right? So, metaverse is essentially an immersive and contextual experience that, in a way transcends the typical physical reality that we are into something that goes beyond into a virtual space. Now, some industries, and like you rightly said, lend themselves so much better to a metaverse environment. So whether it is gaming, toys, and, the whole virtual experience that metaverse provides, some of these industries more naturally work there. But what we are seeing, and I think a lot of analysts are also predicting, is that this is going to be an increasingly interesting area for more and more industries to start getting involved. So if you take, a lot of investments today going around, things like haptic experience. So if you look at metaverse, I think the building blocks to deliver that contextual experience is going to be on two pieces. One, the connectivity that you have for you to be almost seamlessly involved in that virtual environment. The second is going to be the whole content that gives you that whole, experience of being in that whole meta setup there. And for that to happen, if you take the entertainment, gaming, and areas that you have, what if you apply it to something like an healthcare or an industrial environment? And obviously, us as an NBFC or a financial institution could also play a part in the whole space that if you are transacting in virtual goods, say investing in NFTs, can we bring that whole financial services layer in a meta environment? So this is going to be, I think, more and more an industry or an area of interest for the non kind of obvious players. Okay. And what you're also going to see is that this is something where the demographic interest is going to be significantly higher as we have a large population that gravitates towards meta kind of experience. Maybe the Gen X and Gen Y maybe slightly behind, but when you go into the next generation, they are more inclined to such experience. So I think you will see industry start investing there.
Thanks, Durga Prasad. I think nice description. So I think, as you said, getting into a new virtual world, which doesn't exist, but it is sort of created or simulated. But as you mentioned, the haptic technology also giving a sort of touch feeling, even we are sitting in different countries and all. So I want to ask Kapil, you have been, I think, working with different customers as a consulting firm. I'm sure you have been experiencing different opportunities and challenges. can you share in the manufacturing industry or healthcare or retail, where you think this metaverse is? Can you share a few user stories or use cases as such?
Correct. So, like three aspects, right? In the retail industry, the use case is completely different. The businesses are looking at setting up their virtual presence. They are looking at buying lands in some existing metaverses like Roblox, Decentraland Sandbox, and they're setting up a digital presence, setting up their digital shops there, looking at launching new products via NFTs or just as user experience, right? For example, when Hyundai launched on Roblox, the idea was not to sell the car via the Roblox platform. The idea was to make it popular, right? It has just been present in new. What I mean by that is when we were young, we used to play a lot of video games, right? Need for Speed, like I think everybody who has played video games when they were young, Need for Speed, it was one of the favorite games. You got to see a lot of cars there. You got to drive a lot of cars there, Ferrari, Lamborghini, right? Even a middle class guy used to drive a Lamborghini, and that's how they got to know what a Lamborghini is. And when they grow up, they want to like kind of aspire to buy a Lamborghini, right? Now, if you see Roblox, the majority of their active users is less than 17 years old. So they are not going to be the ones buying a Hyundai, right? But they are going to be the one who are going to influence the decision of their parents to buy a Hyundai. So when they get in, they drive the car, they get that experience, they start speaking with their parents that, hey, this is a new car which has come. And that's how the discussion starts. So brand recall, the recollection, and the brand presence is what is looked at being increased. So this is what, like, I use the example of Hyundai, and this is what Nike and a lot of hundreds of other brands are now doing in the retail space. Whereas on the healthcare and manufacturing side, what I'm seeing the biggest traction on is on the training side, right? The manufacturing industry, it has a lot of expensive equipments which are to be used by their workmen, right? Now, training on them could itself be an expensive exercise. Right now, that is where virtual reality and with, like Mr. Durga Prasad mentioned, with the use of haptic technology is coming into picture. They're creating a virtual replica of a very expensive machine, $1 million machine, and just when you wear the VR headset, you get the real feel that you are operating that machine. People are being trained on those machines, and then they kind of get on the real machine. That really saves a lot of trouble, a lot of cost for these companies.
So I want to interrupt you. So if you then can you say that digital twins are integrated with metaverse in the manufacturing industry?
Yeah, there is no metaverse without the concept of digital twins. So that is the starting factor. See, the digital twin, how much is it gonna really resemble the physical world? That is a question, right? But like it can be inspired, it can be modified, it can be like some imagination can be brought in. But the whole essence here to make a successful metaverse is how do you humanize it? Right, and the humanization of a metaverse can only happen when you kind of relate it and keep it as close as to the physical world experience.
Yeah, I think the digital twin, I think of the human beings, okay, avatars, and I think our friend Facebook, the Meta guy solved that. Now you can even see the legs now. In the past, I think the avatars, we were not able to see the legs because of the limitations.
Right.
But the digital twin of the person is called avatar, that's fine. I want to have a digital twin of a human heart, for example, which I think Philips or other companies are doing it. That heart is within the metaverse, and the people can get tried within the metaverse as an immersive experience. So how you think in the manufacturing industry there might be a component, okay, some engine component or whatever, is that digital twin is there in the metaverse and people really get an immersive experience? Is there any use case you experience that might be helpful for manufacturing industry people to know where this metaverse can be very much useful?
Exactly the thing is in the healthcare industry, the heart example, let's take that forward, right? Now the trainings, like, a human body, a virtual replica of a human body is made in an AR mode or a virtual reality mode. And you can really experience it, zoom in, zoom out, get the whole information. And a metaverse is like, a virtual shared space. A lot of users can together and kind of experience things in virtual reality or, mixed reality or web platform, depending on which segment you are in, together. Right, so a lot of hospitals have started exploring this angle now, where they have started to identify use cases. What all can they use in the virtual mode to train? What this helps them is getting a global exposure. Right, they can get a global expert on the platform and interact with them via a virtual mode. They are not bound by physical geography. Right, so whether it is a human heart, whether it is a human body, or any bone issues, right? Everything is looked at being created in a virtual way. So to say, what all can be done. Similarly, in the manufacturing sector, right? Each and every component of an engine can be just opened up and segregated, and you can see which component is going where, and that puts together.
So I think the major challenge is with social media. I think the distance, even you are just my neighbor or even you are in my house, the distance is too far because of the social media, the Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram and all. Now, if you get into a metaverse, right, which is the next level of the social media, and that too, people have to wear these VR headsets. Maybe tomorrow they become the size of the spectacles. That's fine. But if everybody is doing like this, like this, like this, and all gestures and all, imagine now it is a mobile phone. Tomorrow, I think everything is in the air. They are probably showing the gestures to get the metaverse experience. So I'm more worried about the health issues, what the people get it, and what all the family disturbances will come with the metaverse when really it becomes a day-to-day life affair like social media. Anyhow, that's a different topic we'll speak. So let me talk to now Piyush and Balaji. Probably let me start with Piyush. See, it is very easy to say that we have to get into metaverse and all, but the infrastructure required is too high, is my view. You can also validate my understanding. So I need a VR headset, I need some VR suit if required. If I want to get even also the body, some boxing or some sort of hugging or whatever, so people have to get the feeling, then I should have a VR suit, right? It's not just simply only a headset. Okay, or the VR and all. So that infrastructure, then you need to have augmented reality, virtual reality, and a bit of, I think, so much of information needs to come from outside. If it is a twin, maybe the IoT related information has to come, and the twin has to behave in the metaverse the way the physical its twin is working, right? So, what do you think the infrastructure and the tools requirements for the business to leverage the metaverse and provide the value to customers? Is it affordable?
See, Vishal, the first and foremost, I think it's it's a technology which is yet to evolve. Now, what we are doing currently with Metaverse in a very smaller segments is in terms of trainings or probably, kind of having conferences. It's more at that beta kind of a stage, where we are still kind of looking at how things will work. The only, I think, deterrent, or I feel the most important thing here would be the bandwidth, the network, and probably that's where 5G would play a major role. So apart from the technology involved, the kind of graphics required. Now, how much of twins, when we are saying how much can we replicate that, how much identical they would look is very critical. Because the current metaverse or the current gaming, to say, which we all see, or even the conferences which we go to where we see how metaverse works is little not very user friendly. It gives you a feel as if they're robots which are running. They're no humans kind of a feeling there. So you have to kind of, first and foremost, you have to relate to these for this to be for this to be used. Unless we start relating to metaverse and its presentation, we would not be able to accept it. So I think first and foremost, how good we are in terms of creating the graphics is important. How much of twins we can have, plus the network, as I said, is very critical. Okay. Now, when I talk about the use cases are there are many use cases which we can think of, but somewhere the integration of physical and virtual world would be difficult to do. Like, ideally what we would want to do is that somebody is sitting virtually and is able to manage something physically, right? Currently, it is a space which we are creating and people can come there and kind of engage themselves. But when it comes to a physical object, somebody sitting remotely can actually, press a button. I'm talking to that extent is where the actual infrastructure and technology would be required. Right. So like running your machines, right? You probably can look at, and you can train a resource, or probably you can see how he emotes basis his presence in the metaverse, whether he's sitting, he's idle, or he has raised his hand, etc. But when it comes to actually physically going and doing something is where the challenge is, and that's where the major infrastructure, technology, and involvement would be there.
Okay.
So that's my take on it. But as I said, it's an evolving technology. There would be a lot of roadblocks. There'll be, and we're very restricted to just metaverse and Web 3.0. These are all concepts. They all have to come together at a certain point of time to actually enable this to work and be really fruitful. Because eventually, it is more of working remotely and having a experience. So it's all about that. So, okay. So that's my take. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Balaji, I think like Piyush mentioned, A lot of these things are concepts and evolving. And some of the infrastructure and platforms are, and also there are so many versions of metaverse. Okay, there are so many variants are coming in. So, from Ford perspective, have you seen any scenarios where a lot of infrastructure needs to be invested? Because when I want to use for a business a metaverse, I need, for example, I want to have something like a VR headset. So, how much it will cost, I don't know. Okay, then like Piyush mentioned, a 3D tool might be required to model a particular object, a physical object which is required, right? And if you want to send the data from outside to this metaverse, so you need to look at what data intelligence and analytics engine you want to build it so that within metaverse you want to behave differently as an avatar or something like that. So, what do you think? Are we ready as a country to establish this infrastructure as a business and organization and provide better value to customers? Is it affordable, Balaji?
So if you see the sales figures, right, it has notched up to 501 million, and by 2020 end, it will be projected up to 1 billion in line with the usage. Okay. So as Metaverse becomes more popular, right, it is predicted that the cost of the real estate will rise at a compounded annual growth, a CAGR of 45.2% between 2020 and 2025, according to the stats which has been released by various medias. Okay. So it should be, or it must be affordable today for any of the business to adopt the metaverse in any of the industries. Forget about automotive and daily operational usage, say healthcare and everything. So that's what my my learnings comes into picture.
Okay. So anybody has other thoughts on this infrastructure, tools, and the skills required? So what do skills required and all? All these things requires initial some capital expenditure also, right? So of course the SaaS is the way to leverage platforms and all. Without that, very difficult for MSMEs, of course, large organizations might. So any other panelists want to say, whether Kapil or
can I add something? Yes, sir, please. Right. So one important point is like having like the analysis of metaverse, what metaverse is, and putting the access to metaverse just by way of a VR is a very restrictive interpretation, right? VR is not metaverse. Correct. VR is just one of the way to access metaverse. So the most successful, one of the most successful metaverse platforms today is Roblox, right? They are not VR, they are web-based, right? And that is where the initial growth is going to happen. Web-based, mobile-based, the platforms which will be made on these devices is where you'll see the maximum amount of daily active users, right? VR is a different ballgame altogether. VR is a different experience altogether, right? That is, VR is not targeted to have like a 1 million user base. No, that's not the target. VR is looking at solving a different business problem, right? So when businesses are looking to solve those set of problems, like the example that we spoke earlier, trainings and virtual reality, that trainings are not going to be effective on web-based. For that, you need VR headset. But to set up a digital presence, to have a gamified experience, you don't need VR. You can very well have, and you should very well have a web-based experience, right? So the requirements for both are going to be very different. So the first question that any business needs to ask is, what is it that they are targeting? What is it that they need eventually? Right? If it is meetings, for example, we are talking about meetings, right? So for that also we have both the options, web-based as well as VR-based. VR-based is going to be much more immersive, much more realistic, much more practical in the longer run. Okay, the things are picking up now already, we are seeing, but in the longer run, that is where, when the devices become much more smaller, much more affordable, that is where it's going to lead. Because the way I see it, it's a curve, right? Initially, the users are going to be really active on web-based and mobile-based. Slowly, steadily, when they get used to that, they're going to ask for better experiences. That is where mixed reality, virtual reality is going to come to help, right?
I think those things require an initial stage investments. I mean, that's where I think, as you rightly said, the web-based, the mobile-based could be the version 1 if you want to have VR may not be required every case. Okay, so that's what I think very important for MSMEs and all. And also there is a craze, right? Jay, also, what do you think, Jay? There are two things I would like to ask you. I want to purchase real estate in Metaverse, which I can't touch. I only get into some immersive experience, feeling that I am at Manhattan and working in an office which even doesn't exist. Okay, there is a craze today purchasing something in this Metaverse. Right? Is it going to sustain? Do you see the Indian psyche versus the Western psyche? Do you see these non-fungible tokens and getting into Metaverse? And doing that transactions, paying, but ultimately they are not physical, right? So what do you think, Jay? So is it something hype, or it is going to continue? They're all non-fungible, and you can't even touch them. They're all virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to answer your question, yeah, when in case of metaverse, it's a component of a lot of things, right? It's a component of your edge computing, and obviously there is a lot of not sure. We'll only time will say that, but so it's like a now eventually a lot of business will get into it. At least the large organization, because it's going to be like a hygiene to get into that. So if I give an example of a media house, some years back, getting into an OTT was kind of a speculative, wherein whether everyone get into OTT, whether they will survive, whether they will be able to do a lot of differentiation. But today it's like a go-to. You have to be in that space. Something similar is going to happen here, wherein all big organizations will have to be into a metaverse kind of experience, doing NFTs and those, and obviously giving a omni-channel experience to their customers. Because if you see the statistic says that only if you are giving a omni-channel experience to your customers, a retention percentage is 89%. Whereas if you actually give only a few areas or few platforms where you have experience, it goes down to almost 56 to 58%. So it's almost a drop of 20-30% when you see in this case.
Okay.
So obviously everyone will be there. Now coming to your question, whether this NFTs and buying of real estate and buying of a lot of things which you cannot actually, neither you can physically touch, neither you can experience it in a way this one. So there is a challenge in that, because if you see a lot of these areas, especially the NFTs into the metaverse, is not regulated. So we don't know whether you are actually getting into something which is only hype or curious, and whether it's going to be something which you can be though it's non-tangible, but whether you will be able to monetize it in future. So you don't know that kind of aspect on that. That's a key part. Second is unable to get it, but in future, if you want to kind of use that as to kind of to do some kind of transactions or trading and those, are you will allow? Most important is, since there is not support, neither regulations, and since it's a universal, so there is a GDPR kind of compliance kind of regulations. Whether it's going to impact on this, we don't know. So that's going to be a challenge wherein it can lead to a lot of frauds and those kind of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see whether it can have some kind of a policy and regulations coming into this place, especially the NFTs and those in metaverse.
So you are from entertainment industry. Anyhow, we have to wait, because as you rightly said, it is something, a craze we are now experiencing. A very simple art can probably they can do it with millions of dollars. I mean, I get surprised sometimes. Is it something, a craziness emerging in the world? We don't know. Maybe we are old generation people. Maybe the Gen Alphas and Gen Cs might be having some craziness in that.
If you remember before COVID or some a year or a couple of years before, there was all of a sudden the craziness to buy a virtual land on moon. So a lot of people kind of thought about it and going for it and those things. But so it's like getting a kid to a candy store where he is very curious, but not sure.
Right. But one thing caught my attention, Jay, is in the Meta, there was a video where the mom explaining about the Mars to the kid, and just you can rotate the Mars and show the different elements of the Mars. So I was telling in a lighter way, I don't need to spend millions of dollars to go to Mars through Tesla's or Elon Musk's Mars mission. I can simply get into the metaverse and can experience the Mars, right? I think there are the great cases, in my view, if anybody wants to get the experiential learning. I think what is your take on that?
That's a good learning. From the learning point of view, it can be explored, but does it give that kind of and then it also depends on what kind of geography you are there. So if you take especially this part of geography, and especially Indians, we are more into socializing and a lot of these areas. So we would like to go see and explore it in physical as compared to just having a digital experience. So, for example, if I want to just go around and visit a place in India, while I can do it on a metaverse, but I'll be more happy to go and actually physically enjoy it. So it also depends on the kind of
that may be, sorry to interrupt, it may be because of our age group. Probably our next generations might be thinking, I mean, social media, let us look at, I mean, the people are connecting to the whole world sitting at home, addicted. Tomorrow they say, why the hell I need to go outside? I'm getting a better experience in metaverse. I'm getting an immersive experience. I'm able to touch, I'm able to hug, I'm able to punch. I mean, once it reaches its maturity, I'm worried more. In fact, people too much get immersed into a new world which they never exist.
Yeah, that's a kind of a flaw. That's a kind of a issue wherein, since it's going to be a lot of interactive with a lot of friends and colleagues and peers, which you can do in this world. So whether you're going to move out of that kind of a physical connect and get into more of a virtual connect, that's going to be one of the challenge, and that's going to be one of the issue with this kind of experience.
So in the media entertainment, do you see Kamal Hassan started the metaverse and expecting his avatar I can have a conversation with, we both can sit together and feel that as if myself and Kamal Hassan, avatars are having conversation. Maybe meeting him, going and all is very difficult. So do you see
Yeah.
such type of things will emerge more and more in your
Yes.
media entertainment industry? A superstar, a celebrity, which I don't even get an appointment. Probably I can sit at home and wear a great VR, like Kapil said. I want immersive experience. I don't want just web experience there.
It's already media industry is getting into that. They are creating this experience wherein either you with a celebrity or you are a part of the overall studio audience, where you're sitting in the studio, just kind of someone sitting live and experiencing that, or maybe you are in the stadium wherein with a 360-degree view of that particular match and a stadium, you are a part of that pavilion,
Correct.
sitting in a pavilion and then experiencing it. So these use cases are already being built up, and
Correct.
these are already in progress. The challenge which there is, and which you mentioned earlier, was the having a such kind of a VR headset to have this experience, because you will not be able to stretch a lot on those kind of this one. While we do that, and the way some of the way Apple has announced, and now I guess about launching their kind of glasses, just as a glasses kind of VR headset in sometime in April or May next year.
Okay.
So we'll see this tend to go, and if that happens, then
Yes.
this kind of interactivity with a lot of celebrities is going to be a big thing. At the same time, it will create a lot of brand endorsement as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even I was talking yesterday with one of my colleagues. I want to have, my teacher should be a superstar, maybe in Telugu Mahesh Babu or Hindi somebody else, right? So he teaches me mathematics because I want to have his avatar teaching to me. Maybe he'll ask me some royalty when I introduce the thing, right? So I want to have somebody, a star is teaching me. I want to get that metaverse experience. So imagination is unlimited, right?
True. True.
Okay, anyhow. So I started my first article maybe when Meta introduced. I said I get into Hastinapur in Metaverse. I just wrote some hypothetical story. And I requested Duryodhan, who was my closest friend. I told, stop the war. He stopped. And we both went to shopping and did some NFT shopping, and he gave me a gift. And after that, I removed my headset and just I saw I'm in my room. Okay. So I'm sure those are all the fiction stories will come. I think then you feel. And also I characterized my favorite star in Telugu, Senior NTR. So I said, Mr. Duryodhan was Senior NTR character, right? I was talking to him. Anyhow, so let us come back to the serious discussion. So, Kapil, I think you have been talking with so many customers and all. Do you see, is there any possibility to design new business models or new services, revenue streams, where the businesses can, at the end of the day, all these jargons, Web 3.0, Metaverse and all, if they are not giving me more revenue, not giving me more customers, not reducing my cost and increasing my profit, not scaling my business, these are all only jargons and then heavy capital expenditures and all. So what do you think the whole business model, services, and operational impact with this metaverse where businesses can better value?
Right. So this is really starting to happen now. You know, when Metaverse really kicked off being famous, this is not a new concept. But when the concept started becoming famous, the ideology of businesses were different. They were just looking to have a presence to kind of get a bite of the PR, the first mover advantage. Now, as and when the industry is starting to mature, they are looking at the ROI. The first question that they have is what will be my ROI if I make an investment, right? So definitely that is the most important question that every business has now, that what am I looking at? Is brand value, whether it is customer acquisition or whether it is revenue, but I need to have some credit to my business at the end of the day if I enter this industry, right? And I completely agree with what Jazz said, right? That businesses with omnichannel presence are going to have a much longer play in the game, right? So one is this whole metaverse experience is adding to their brand value, and they are having a much extended presence, so to say. And second, in the strategy bit as well, right? When they enter a new territory or when they enter a new segment, like let's call metaverse a new segment, right? They have a new opportunity to experiment. The whole NFT case, for example, right? Let's take an IPL team's example. If they today decide to set up a metaverse experience, they have a lot of behind the scene footage, right? And fans are really crazy about the BTS, and why not monetize that BTS, put it as an NFT, and the holder of the NFT get access to the whole metaverse experience of the IPL team, where you get to meet and greet your favorite players virtually. And adding the whole layer of AR into that, you can do a photo op with your favorite players, right? You can buy virtual tickets. You can create your own museum for which you can put a ticket, and like everybody can enter and have an access to the museum, and there you can have various ways of engaging with the customers, right?
Okay.
All these things were not possible earlier. These examples that I just took. And these are just one of the most basic examples that I'm taking, just to keep it really simple, right? Now, that is what I mean by the opening up of new doors and, thinking of new business strategies when any business is looking at setting up in the metaverse. So yes,
have you developed any ROI calculator for metaverse use cases?
See, it's too early to develop a calculator, so to say, right? There can't be a fixed number that you can put. And the reason for that is every brand has a different expectation. It's not a typical business model where you do this and you get this. No, brands come to us sometimes and say that I just want this so that I get a new way to put my name out there. This is what I want. I want to reach out to the kids for this thing. Some brands say, hey, I want to experiment new products. I don't want to do it in the physical world. That's going to cost me a lot. I might as well do it as NFTs. And I might as well bring an online community. They look at it as an investment, which is going to feed into their larger business. Some brands are looking at customer acquisition for this. But, I'm a strong believer that any brand who's looking at a customer acquisition or a profitability from this, a longer game is too early to suspect right now. Right? You have to come into the strategy event by event. That is because where you get to see a lot of conversion happening.
Right.
Decentraland, the daily active user, if you see on Decentraland, is very, very low. It's minuscule. But when some major event happens, then millions of people enter Decentraland.
Okay.
Right. So if you are somebody who is looking at that perspective, then you have to focus on the event and not like a permanent engagement, because that is not going to make sense for your business. So every business, what is it that you are looking for? What is the outcome that you are expecting? That is going to be the starting point. And basis that you design a strategy.
Yeah, I think you need as many proof of concepts as possible.
Yeah,
I think that's where I think in startups we say start small, fail fast, and then scale fast. I think Metaverse is in that zone now. We can't experiment so many big things and get into a bad zone. So thank you, Durga Prasad. So what do you think? Metaverse, we have been talking now AR, VR, web, and probably a bit of NFTs and blockchain. The role of data and artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning. So what is your view, the role of these technologies in Metaverse? And one example I'll give you, one article I read, the BCI, the brain-computer interface. My brain signals will go to my avatar in Metaverse. Then my avatar behaves what I think. I'm not sure whether it is really got into that state or not. So my brain thinking going there, and that's, I think, more of the brain-computer interface, and also the artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms will be, you have to put into that avatar, otherwise it doesn't act like what I think, right? So that is one very high-end example. So any use cases you have seen where data and artificial intelligence, machine learning plays a role in Metaverse?
No, definitely. I think if you take the classic industrial case of the digital twin, right? Now, effectively, a digital twin is ultimately a data representation of the physical object. Now, in my previous organization at GE, we used to try to build a physical object, which is like an aircraft engine. Now, if you take and like Kapil was mentioning, right, an aircraft engine has, so many parts that go in. Now, how do I blow that up into, say, this is the set of components that has made up this engine? And the engine itself goes through multiple servicing life cycles, which means it's almost like, your Janam Kundli, so to speak, right? But in a digital form for a non-living object,
right?
And then subject it to models. So let's say I have an aircraft engine which is 5 years old, has gone through so many miles of flying, and has gone through so many service life cycles. If I want to say that now, what will be the efficiency of that? Can I run a data model to see how does that compare and look at it from a real life? That's where this will come into play. Now, whether that actually qualifies as a metaverse, or that could be something done, in a typical big data and AI/ML space, is obviously debatable. But that's where one area that comes into play.
Do you think the holograms are required? Okay, avatars are there. That's a different. Human beings are represented as avatars, and day by day, they are looking like cartoons now. Probably might look like us exactly. Maybe after 5 years or something like that. But when it comes to the digital twins, is it required to have some sort of holograms within Metaverse, or how these 3D modeling and replication of the physical asset will be there, and how the people get the experience of touching that? Okay, I want to learn something and I want to rotate the engine and feel it that as if I'm rotating it, opening it. This is where I need Metaverse, right? Otherwise, I can.
No, so that's where the experience comes into play. Let's see. I think Kapil rightly put that. Not get this as purely a VR and start with that. If you take, even 15 years ago, we had a site called Second Life,
No, yeah.
And companies could still be cool and say, I want to do a job posting on Second Life instead of, on a Naukri or elsewhere, right? So that's where I think you have to see what exactly an organization is looking for when it is going to have a play in the meta space, right? Is it looking for engagement? Is it looking for actually selling goods, whether virtual or something that's starting with virtual but translates to physical? And ultimately, like you asked previously, each of these not necessarily something that you measure as a return on investment, but are there progress indicators for us to say that this is something making it viable for business to start experimenting more and more in the meta space.
Okay.
So this is where I think engagement, either it's a sale or a transaction, all come into play. And the area where I think the whole experience and data and translating data into a kind of a real experience for the users is where, the whole, like you said, if I'm going to do an operation on a certain part of the body, how do I, give the experience to the person performing the operation as if it is real? At the same time, the other side also needs to reflect the action that I'm carrying out, right? So if I am doing an, bypass operation in a virtual setup, if I do a small mistake, how does it reflect to a bleeding setup in the virtual environment? So that means a lot of data has to come into play there for an action carried out by a participant to reflect in the virtual space.
Yes. I think, there I think the artificial intelligence, machine learning, algorithms plays a role. When you do this, what will happen is a prediction. It will also simulate and show it, and the guy also feel that experience and all. So Piyush probably will conclude with the question. It is still in the nascent stage. Okay, the ROI calculators are not there, and proof of concept stage evolving and all. But having said that, what do you think the cyberbullying or even sexual abuse is happening for the avatars, especially in the metaverse, right? So the wrong side of metaverse is like, what are the negative implications of metaverse on security, dignity, privacy, and the business related, any risks are there? You want to share that?
See, I feel that this is a very, there are a lot of use cases. It's very interesting. It's very productive, and anything which is like an open to people has its own impact. Like it can be, if it's for gaming, I know my kids are playing games on Xbox or let's say PS4, PS5. You can see that, there are people who are moving into the game. It's more like a metaverse, and you can see, and they're talking and they're using foul language. So now either you keep them away from technology or get them into it and make them understand that this is, not correct. So, such technologies are very, they spread very quickly, and, they're at a different level in different scenarios, like for business, for games, for entertainment. So we really can't stop these. We have to just ensure that, we are aware of our children, whoever is using it is aware of how productive it could be for them, whether it's for enjoyment or it's for business. So definitely this should be there. There is no reason why we should not stop it. But yes, there should be some guidelines, like the way now we are getting into social media and the government is kind of monitoring it. I think somewhere that intervention has to come in to see to it that what exactly it is being used for. And for somebody to actually create a metaverse is not easy. So it's only these big companies who would actually get into it. So there has to be some control there. Also, these releases which are happening have to be have to go through some kind of an audit, etc. before. Otherwise, it could spread, like a wildfire, and slowly, in 2-3 years, certain things will become more like an easy thing to develop and deliver, and that's where it would be very difficult to control it.
Right.
So currently it is being used in a very constructive way. As we say that VR probably is not as in we all think of metaverse as VR, augmented reality, and we expect it to be like that, and that's where we would see most of the traction also from business, and that's what we would also enjoy to see. To be very fair, but then it's actually not limited to that. It's also limited to help online, right? People have issues at a certain place, and then they can connect. And that's where this metaverse kind of a situation can be created. Somebody is stuck on roadside assistance, and these are the kind of cases which we can which are more easy to do and probably more helpful than to actually look at it from having an adverse impact. So these are the ones which probably will take the ground first, and then we probably will build on virtual reality, augmented reality, and the actual case we are looking at.
So thank you so much, Piyush. Jay, probably you could share some of your thoughts on what could be the negative implications of this metaverse, especially the cyberbullying or somebody is doing some compromising dignity. Even authors are feeling bad. So we have seen some of the stories also, right? So what do you think the precautions to be taken? Like you need a virtual bouncers, like physical bouncers are there for the celebrities, where the virtual bouncer will pull the avatar and put it outside.
Yeah, so that's one of the challenges. We might not know what the avatar we are going to deal with when we are already in that metaverse
Bad, good,
world.
ugly, worst. Yeah,
Yeah,
rogues.
and maybe you're having with your friends or maybe your family, and all of a sudden there is an avatar which you are actually not comfortable there. So that could be one of the reason. Second issue is so that's kind of invading of your privacy, or that could be one of the reason which is there. The second is if in future a lot of these organizations or some of them try to get a monetization where they want to get ad feeds or getting advertisement into the metaverse. So today in most of the areas it's regulated, especially whether it's a linear or TV or whether it's in web, or so there is some kind of regulation there and some kind of a I would say not actually moral policing, but there's a kind of control is there. But in this case in metaverse we will not, as of now there is no kind of a control in that space. That could be one of the
Yes,
challenges.
that's true.
And
Yeah.
third and the last could be could be a lot of social engineering kind of a issue, wherein you through this they can kind of have a lot of the way it's there for other areas, wherein you can have a social engineering done and then you can lead to frauds and a lot of infringements areas. So that could be one of the challenges there, which
So
is
do you
again
expect digital nations with different names, which you also don't know? Somebody might build an empire and declare himself as an avatar, as a king. And there are so many kingdoms in metaverse, and so they colonize that complete thing like British.
yeah. I won't name the person, but we already have someone who's kind of a Baba in a way, and he's said that he's got his own country and those and those. So
But that is
there,
a physical country. Probably he doesn't know there is a metaverse. He could have
yeah. But this is very
constructed
much a
that.
possibility, and it's already there. So in metaverse, there is a very much a possibility of having those,
Yeah,
and
I
then
think there
asking
are
people to buy land
possibilities.
in that. Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's a very interesting discussion. So I'm sure Meta itself is facing so many challenges. Of course, the Facebook is going down. That still this metaverse is in the nascent stage and it is picking up. Certainly, there are some use cases like in education or few in healthcare, and also in the manufacturing, like Kapil mentioned, in the proof of concept stage, and people have to get acquainted. So, what is the value of this metaverse into the business in terms of creating the new revenue streams or providing an omni-channel or the unforgettable moments of experience, an immersive experience to the customers into the metaverse. And we also touch upon what is the infrastructure required, the tools required to ensure that the required metaverse use cases can be experimented. We touched upon the cyber bullying or the privacy, the compromise, how to take care. And so many things like blockchain we talk about digital twins, we talk about AI, ML role, we talk about analytics, whatnot. I think it's a huge technology stack and a lot of, I think, effort needs to be put in and it should be simplified. Okay, like all these biggies working, they should simplify. They should make these things as a service, like other things are happening, so that the small companies also can enjoy the fruits of the. Thank you so much, friends, and I look forward to see you at the conference. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.